What if I told you, it's not your wish that creates, not your vision board, not the words you whisper at 11:11 or the list you hide beneath your pillow. It's your frequency, the invisible, pulsing, ever-broadcasting signal that emanates from your body, especially when you're not trying. And maybe that's the part that hurts because you've been trying so hard, holding the vision, scripting your future, praying with your whole chest. But deep down, you can feel it, the mismatch, the hope in your head and the doubt in your gut, the clarity of your desire and the static in your system. We've been taught to manifest with our minds, but your reality doesn't respond to your mind. It responds to your state. Your frequency is not your playlist or your mantra or even your morning routine. It's the flavor of your nervous system, the music your body hums when no one's watching, the subtle tone of what you actually believe is safe, possible, allowed. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. And what you are is always being broadcasted. Through your breath, your posture, your patterns, your pauses, through how deeply you can rest, how quickly you grasp, how long you can stay open before the fear makes you close. It's not your wish that creates, it's the weather within you, the resonance between your cells and the field, the way your being aligns or misaligns with what you're asking for. Ever wonder why some things come easily and others feel like chasing smoke? It's coherence. When your conscious desire meets your unconscious permission, when the signal is clean and there's no static from doubt, desperation, or disbelief. But when you're gripping, when you're rushing the timing, checking the signs, micromanaging the mystery, that frequency isn't creation. That's fear, disguised as discipline. Control is noisy. Frequency is quiet. When you need it now, it doesn't land. When you obsess, you push. When you wait for proof, you block the blessing. Because urgency is a frequency, so is need, so is shame. And the universe, this vast, intelligent quantum mirror, can only echo what you emit. You can't trick it with affirmations. You can't fake softness while your jaw is clenched. You can't pretend to trust while your whole body braces for disappointment. You can't fool the field, because the field speaks frequency, not English. So the real question is not what do I want, but what am I broadcasting? Not how can I get it, but can I become the version of me who already holds it without grasping? This is where it begins to shift. When you realize that manifestation is not a task, it's a transmission, not a checklist, but a calibration. Not more doing, more remembering. Remembering who you are beneath the tension, beneath the timelines, beneath the pressure to prove and the hunger to be chosen. You're not manifesting with your mind. You're manifesting with your memory, your cellular memory of worth, of safety, of enoughness. And when that memory is fractured by trauma, urgency, scarcity, the frequency splinters. And so you wait and push and wonder what's wrong. But nothing is wrong. The field is working perfectly. It's simply responding to your current broadcast, not your desired outcome. So the work isn't about forcing the outcome. It's about tuning the station, clearing the static, letting your system remember what it feels like to feel safe in the having. Because the truth is, the signal of I need it and the signal of I have it are opposites, and the field only echoes what you already are, not what you wish for, what you embody. And embodiment is where most people stop, not because they don't want it, but because they don't know how to live inside the frequency they're asking for without seeing proof, without the text, without the number in the account, without the ring, the call, the door opening. But embodiment doesn't wait for evidence. Embodiment is the evidence. It's the moment you walk like it's already yours, even when the hallway's still quiet. It's the breath you take before checking your phone, not because you're afraid it won't come, but because your system is no longer bracing for lack. You start noticing the space between things, the softness between thoughts, the trust between heartbeats. And that, more than anything you say, is what reshapes the field. Because when your body begins to believe it, the quantum responds. The observer effect takes over, not just as a theory, but as a lived reality. What you expect becomes entangled with what shows up. What you feel safe to hold begins to hold you back. Have you ever felt that strange moment when something you wanted for so long finally shows up, but your body tenses, you doubt it, you question it, you wait for it to leave? That's not self-sabotage. That's frequency mismatch. The body hasn't caught up to the manifestation. The nervous system isn't attuned to receiving. So the signal of I have it gets scrambled, and reality echoes the static. This is why we say regulation is manifestation, Because until your system feels safe in the state you're calling in, it can't stay, it can't land, it can't root. So no, you don't need to visualize harder. You need to exhale deeper. You need to soften the grip that says, if I let go, it won't come. Because letting go is what lets it in. There's a frequency in surrender that control will never touch, a quiet power in presence that urgency can't replicate. And when your whole being hums with coherence, no gaps between what you want and what you believe, no splinters between your thoughts and your field, reality bends, not with force, but with frequency. This is not magic. This is physics. Every emotion you feel alters your field. Every state you embody shifts the signal. When you move from survival to safety, from proving to peace, from hoping to having, the quantum responds. You don't need to convince it. You just need to become it. The frequency of "it's already done" is not arrogance, it's alignment. It's the signal of someone who stopped waiting and started being, someone who no longer begs life to deliver, but simply becomes a match for the life already whispering back. So let me ask you, what are you broadcasting right now in this very moment? Not your words, your essence, not your thoughts, your tone, because you can say, I trust 1,000 times, but if your body's bracing, if your heart's racing, if your chest is tight and your breath is shallow, the field hears the tension, not the sentence, and until that changes, the signal stays scrambled, the desire stays distant, the wish remains a wish. But when you drop in, when you root into presence like it's a home you never left, when your breath becomes an open door and your system unclenches, ungrips, unwinds, the signal clears, the field responds, and suddenly life doesn't feel so far away anymore. There's a moment, quiet and unassuming, when something inside you finally exhales, not because you got the thing, but because you stopped needing it to feel whole. That moment is the frequency shift. It's subtle. It doesn't come with fireworks, but suddenly the chase dissolves, the craving softens, and in its place is peace, not the peace of giving up, but the peace of arriving in yourself, in your body, in the now. You realize you were never manifesting the thing. You were manifesting the version of you who no longer searches for it like oxygen, because that's the paradox. The moment you no longer need the outcome to feel worthy, it starts moving toward you. Because your frequency has become a match for abundance, not absence. You've stopped echoing lack. You've stopped begging the mirror to smile before you do. And the field, this living, listening intelligence, begins to rearrange itself around your new center. Do you feel that? The shift from "why isn't it here yet" to "I already am the one who lives in that reality." That shift collapses timelines. Because when the signal stabilizes, when your energy stops jumping between fear and faith, the gap closes. The thing that once felt far arrives through paths you couldn't have planned, not because you chased it, but because you became undeniable to it. This is embodiment, not a performance, but a presence, not pretending, just returning to the most honest, regulated, coherent version of you, the one who doesn't check the mirror 10 times, who doesn't scan the room for signs, who doesn't ask, is it working every 5 minutes? Because that version doesn't need reassurance. That version is the reassurance. It's a nervous system that says, I trust the timing, a body that says, I'm safe to receive, a field that says, I'm ready. And that readiness, that quiet confidence, it's magnetic, because when you're not leaking energy into doubt, when you're not spiraling through questions or reaching through resistance, your power consolidates, your signal sharpens, and what was once blurred by interference becomes crystal clear. Imagine your frequency like a lighthouse. When it's flickering, uncertain, afraid, conditional, the signal is weak, boats pass by, the shore is missed. But when the light steadies, when you stop dimming and doubting and diluting, it becomes impossible to ignore. That's what you're here to remember. Not how to make it happen, but how to become the light that makes it inevitable. And becoming that light, it doesn't come from strategy. It comes from softness, from slowing down, from letting your nervous system recalibrate to enoughness, not because the world says you are, but because you remember you always were. And in that remembrance, the field responds. Because coherence is louder than craving, and safety sings louder than struggle. So instead of asking, what more do I need to do? Ask, what tension can I release? What doubt can I drop? What fear can I finally let melt? Because you don't manifest from force. You manifest from frequency, and frequency is felt, Not performed, it's the exhale after the storm, the stillness before the arrival, the quiet knowing that says, I don't chase, I magnetize. And when you become that knowing, when you embody that signal, the field moves to meet you, not because you wished harder, but because you finally remembered who you are. And who you are is not the version caught in the loop of effort, not the one glued to outcomes, bargaining with the universe like it's a vending machine. That version, though earnest, though loving, is still trying to earn what was never meant to be earned. You were never meant to strive your way into alignment. You were meant to remember it, to return to it, to let it bloom in your being like a flower that doesn't ask if it's worthy to open, just waits for the sun. But when your nervous system is used to lack, used to waiting, used to watching others receive, it can feel almost dangerous to relax. That's the core fracture, the fear that says, if I stop gripping, I'll lose everything. But gripping is what blocks the flow. Tension interrupts transmission. Fear fragments frequency, so the field responds to the fragmentation. And this is where most people spiral. They see the delay and think, I must not be worthy. I must be doing it wrong. But it's not about wrong, it's about resonance. Your signal isn't broken, it's just scrambled. And it's not because you're bad, it's because you've been scared, because you've learned to associate hope with hurt, desire with danger, receiving with risk. So your frequency, your body, your signal tries to protect you, not from failure, from disappointment, from what it would mean to open fully and be met with nothing. But here's what no one tells you. The most magnetic thing you can do is feel safe in the not yet, to rest inside the unknown with the same softness you would bring to the known, to let the empty space feel like a cradle instead of a void. That's the real shift. When waiting becomes witnessing, when absence becomes aliveness, when the silence isn't empty, it's listening, because the field is always listening, and what it listens for is not your words, but your willingness. Willingness to stay open when it's quiet, willingness to feel joy before the evidence, willingness to hold the frequency of love even before the lover appears. This is the rewiring, not more wanting, more welcoming, not louder asking, quieter receiving. It's the moment when your breath says, even here I'm enough, when your posture says, I'm not chasing, when your energy whispers, I'm already whole. And in that state, pure, coherent, receptive, you become inevitable, not to the thing, but to the frequency where the thing already exists. You collapse the distance between desire and destination, not by running toward it, but by melting the version of you that thought it was far, because nothing you truly desire is far. It's just vibrating at a frequency your current self hasn't anchored into yet. So the journey isn't toward the thing, it's toward the self who already lives there, the self who doesn't flinch, who doesn't beg, who doesn't wait for proof to believe. That self already exists, in your timeline, in your field, in the version of you who stops outsourcing power to outcomes and starts becoming the outcome. And when you live from that place, not someday but now, the field must match it, not as a reward, as a reflection, because the field isn't keeping score. It's keeping resonance. It's not testing you, it's tuning you. And the moment you emit the signal of I am, reality responds, yes you are. So don't chase, tune, don't plead, embody. Don't perform, transmit, because what creates is not what you wish for. It's the signal you dare to become. And becoming that signal is not a single decision. It's 1,000 micro moments, each one an invitation to return to presence when the mind starts spiraling. Return to trust when the old fear says, this won't last. Return to softness when the impulse to grip rises like a wave, because your frequency isn't fixed, it's fluid. It shifts with your attention, your breath, your body's sense of safety. And every time you choose presence over panic, coherence over control, you recalibrate the field, not with force, but with fidelity. Not by efforting your way into alignment, but by feeling your way there. By letting your nervous system remember that safety isn't a prize, it's a practice. And in that practice, something radical happens. You stop abandoning yourself in the name of hope. You stop contorting your essence just to be chosen. You stop outsourcing your peace to things you can't control, because control isn't coherence, and urgency isn't alignment. What creates is who you become when you stop trying to create. The one who waters the energy, not the outcome. Who tends to the soil of their state, not the shape of the manifestation. This is the art of living inside the signal before the signal shapes your life. And it doesn't mean you won't feel fear. It doesn't mean you'll never doubt. But now you catch it. You breathe through it. You don't let it steer because you know what's real isn't the thought. It's the tone underneath. You can say, I believe all day. But if the tone beneath it says, I don't feel safe, the field responds to the tone. This is where embodiment becomes subtle, sacred, sovereign. No longer about declarations, but about devotion. No longer about the image, but about the integrity of your energy. It's how you wake up. It's how you speak to yourself when no one's listening. It's how you hold the vision gently, without strangling the timeline. You stop needing the finish line to feel fulfilled, because the signal of fulfillment becomes your starting point, your resting place, your home frequency, and from there, you start noticing the shifts, the coincidences that feel too precise to be random, the opportunities that appear without effort, the people who match your frequency before you even say a word. Not because you forced it, but because you became the vibration that makes it natural. This is the secret most never speak. Manifestation is less about magnetizing things and more about dissolving the parts of you that believe you're separate from them. When that dissolves, when you stop waiting and start vibrating, reality can finally meet you where you already are. And what once felt like magic becomes the most natural thing in the world. Because now, it's not you reaching for it. It's you, steady, clear, embodied, calling it in with every breath. And maybe the most tender part of this journey is realizing how long you've lived outside your own signal, how many versions of you learn to adapt, perform, shrink, or please, just to feel safe in a world that taught you to mistrust your own energy. So of course the frequency gets scrambled. Of course, the broadcast weakens. Because when you've spent years calibrating to survival, to urgency, to proving, you forget what ease even sounds like. But here's the miracle. Your signal was never lost, only layered. Beneath every pattern, every protection, every fear, the original tone still hums, the frequency of your wholeness, the rhythm of your essence, and embodiment is the process of peeling back the noise to hear that music again, not by fixing, but by feeling where the tension lives, feeling where the old story still loops, feeling the places where you're still chasing instead of choosing, because every place you chase reveals a part of you that hasn't yet felt chosen. Not by the world, but by you. And when you start choosing yourself, not from ego but from essence, your frequency stabilizes, your power returns, your presence deepens, and from there, creation becomes inevitable. Not a reward for being good, but a reflection of being true. This is the deep work of frequency, to become so rooted in your signal that nothing external can distort it, so clear in your coherence that timelines bend to your embodied belief. Not belief as a thought, belief as a nervous system state. The kind of belief that says, even in the silence, I'm safe. Even without proof, I'm powerful. Even as I wait, I'm worthy. Because waiting isn't empty when the frequency is full. In that fullness, you stop bargaining with the universe. You stop over-explaining your desire. You stop proving your worth. You just become the frequency that life responds to with a yes. And not every yes looks how you imagined. Sometimes the yes is a door closing so a better one can open. Sometimes it's a delay that deepens your embodiment. Sometimes it's a quiet season that sharpens your signal. But every yes is working with your frequency, not against it. And the more you trust that, really trust it from your breath to your bones, the more life begins to meet you in miraculous ways. Because miracles aren't exceptions. They're expressions of alignment. They're what happens when the internal becomes so coherent, the external has no choice but to mirror it. So no, you're not waiting on the thing. The thing is waiting on your frequency to steady, to open, to rise. And the moment it does, reality rearranges itself to match. Not because you begged, but because you remembered. And what you're remembering isn't new, it's ancient. It's the song your cells knew before they learned fear. The rhythm your heart carried before it ever beat for approval. You're not learning to manifest. You're unlearning the interference, the stories, the grip, the self-abandonment that wrapped itself in discipline and called it doing it right. But the truth is, you don't manifest what you manage. You manifest what you embody. You don't attract through strategy. You attract through state. And your state is felt before it's seen, felt in the way you walk through a room, felt in the space between your words, felt in the silence after your sigh. The universe responds to that. Not your checklist, not your timeline, not your effort. It responds to your energetic tone, your emotional home, your embodied truth. And so you begin to shift from managing life to magnetizing it. From asking, how do I get this, to asking, who do I become to receive this with ease? Not become through striving, but through surrender, through the quiet courage it takes to not push when you feel behind, to stay soft when life feels slow, to keep your heart open, even when logic tells you to close, because that softness is the signal, that openness is the portal, that coherence between your heart and body and breath is what cracks open the field. The field isn't looking for perfection, it's listening for presence, and when your presence becomes unconditional, when your nervous system learns that it's safe to feel safe, even now, that's when things start landing, because you've stopped interrupting the signal with doubt. You've stopped distorting the frequency with fear. You've stopped creating from the wound and started creating from the wholeness. And in that wholeness, life feels different. You're no longer addicted to the high of potential or the crash of disappointment. You're steady, sure, anchored. And in that anchoring, things come without chaos, without overthinking, without you needing to prove you're ready, because the proof is in the frequency, in the coherence, in the quiet, knowing that says, I'm already it. So of course it arrives. You walk into rooms differently. You stop trying to be chosen. You start choosing, not from arrogance, from alignment. You become the one who doesn't chase energy. You are the energy, and people feel it. Opportunities feel it. The field responds, not because you said the perfect affirmation, but because you finally stopped negotiating with your worth. You stopped asking for what's already yours. You started living like it's done, not because you see it, but because you are it. And in that living, in that frequency, in that remembering, creation becomes your natural state. Because now, you're not waiting for the reality to change, you're letting the reality catch up to you. And in the end, that's the essence of it all. Reality doesn't lead, you do. The quantum doesn't decide for you, it reflects you. And the moment you stop treating your frequency as a reaction and start treating it as the cause, everything changes. Because you're not here to hustle for your timeline. You're here to harmonize with it. And harmony can't be forced. It's felt. It's a tuning, not a task. A softening, not a sprint. It's the way you speak to yourself when no one's listening. The way you hold your breath or let it go. The way you walk through an uncertain moment without collapsing into doubt. You become a living coherence, a walking, breathing, grounded reminder that reality follows resonance. And suddenly, you're no longer confused by delays, no longer thrown off by silence. You know the field is listening. You know the mirror is clearing. You know the signal you emit is building momentum, even when you can't see it yet. So you stop grasping. You start glowing. You stop waiting for a sign. You start becoming one. And the need to prove, to chase, to control falls away like old skin, because now you've tasted something deeper, not control, but connection, not force, but flow. You feel the pulse of creation inside you. You feel the hum of alignment in your body. You feel the yes that lives beneath the noise, and you trust it, even when it's quiet, even when it's slow, even when the outcome looks nothing like you imagined. Because the more you trust your signal, the more the world trusts you. And the field, the vast intelligent field that has always been waiting, not to test you but to match you, finally responds with a clarity that leaves no doubt. You never had to beg for what was always in resonance with your being. You only had to become still enough, safe enough, true enough to receive it. So let that be your remembering. Not that you have to try harder, but that you were always creating, not with your wishes, with your wavelength.